All right. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to this week edition of the Mile 99 interview series. And I am your co-host Paulo Medina, and I'm here in Auburn, California. It's streaming live from the 8th station running store in Auburn. And I'm here today with Greg Larkin, my co-host. Go ahead, Greg.
Hey, thanks, Paulo. I'm Greg Larkin, and also here in Auburn, broadcasting live from my couch as we're all still in the shelter-in-place. Eventually, maybe we'll actually be able to broadcast, and interview people right from the store. Who knows? Coming in the next few months, so we'll see about that. But yeah, this is the episode 5, the Mile 99 interview series. This week, we're really pleased to have Chris Thomas with us. He's a runner out of Reno, Nevada. And he has gotten into some pretty impressive races and other types of challenges over the last couple of years, and very recently as well. Some things we're going to be talking about. He's a relatively new runner on the scene. He started in 2015, has a really good story about how he got into running. So we're going to just dive in and find out all about how he got started and some of the things he's been doing and what he's got planned for the future. So welcome, Chris.
Thanks. Glad to be here. I'm super excited. I was checking out some of the other interviews and just being with Kelly Barber and everyone and Cooney, and just it's a good group to be grouped in with in the beginning. Thanks a lot.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, we're we've been keeping our eye on what people have been doing, I think, throughout this whole pandemic. And as we're going to talk about, we have obviously the Hammond challenge that we're going to dive into later that you most recently completed, and that just kind of, at least for me, spurred my interest. I'd been following it throughout the last month, and was super happy to see you doing that. So yeah, we're going to get into all that good stuff. So Paulo, you want to kick us off with anything?
Yes. Christopher, I have to say I'm really excited to have you with us today. Well, for many reasons. And one of them being that I know you from the races. I seen you on the trails. I seen you at events. But like Greg said, I was not familiar with your background in how you got into running and some things that you have accomplished throughout the years. So I am really, really excited to learn more about those things and to share those things with other people. All right. So through our questionnaire that you filled out and a little bit of stalking that we do online, we learned that you started running back in 2015. And like Greg said, you completed a lot of races and a lot of challenges, including doing back-to-back 100Ks, UTMB, and a bunch of other races that are just pretty incredible feats to complete. Okay. Hey. So we are here, and basically, Christopher, if you'd like to share with us, how did you get into running, or what got you into running, or why did you get into running? Because as we learned last week with Cooney, not everybody likes running, but yet they continue to do it every week.
Yeah, I didn't know that I liked running either. I joined a CrossFit gym because I was like 210 pounds, just smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. And my wife was just like, hey, if you want to stick around, you probably should change your life. And I asked my plumber, because I build houses for a living. And I asked my plumber because he used to have to hire a young kid to crawl under the house because he didn't fit. And then all of a sudden, a couple of years later, he shows up and there's no more kid. And he is just, he looked like Marky Mark. He was just like ripped and abs and everything. And so I asked him, I said, hey, well, how'd you do that? And so he took me to this, it wasn't CrossFit. They called it cross training, but it was a CrossFit class. And I remember the first class, I was just doing sit-ups, and the teacher came over, the instructor came over and asked him if I was going to be okay. So I knew I needed to be there. So what happened was, in that class, it was filled with a bunch of people who ran OCR Spartan races.
Okay.
And so eventually I kind of joined in with them on that. And so they ran one 8-mile course every Sunday at 9 a.m. as fast as they could. So they had like 2 places where they stopped. So they would stop at the top of this one hill. Everyone would come back together. And once the last person got there, then they would all take off. And then, so I was just chasing everyone. And
was this a trail run, or was this a road
yeah, it
run?
was a trail run. Yeah, it was
Okay.
it was in a local park, and it was interesting to see. I remember I got a GPS watch, and I remember my first mile that I did was and I actually was trying really hard, was 11:42, and that was like flat on the dirt. So I mean, I look back at that. I almost wanted to keep that data from that watch to kind of go back and see like how the progression is.
I
But
know. I personally am. I'm sad that Runkeeper got rid of their old data.
oh
Because yes,
gosh.
like you, I wish I could go back to those days.
Yeah.
Yes, but go ahead.
I was able to download it was a Nike watch, and I was able to download that. I just don't know like how to find it, where I can upload it into. But so I did a couple of those races, and I actually ended up being really, really good at it. Still not knowing that what I was really good at was running. But I won my age group championship. I won the national age group championship. I got on the podium in the elite masters division when I switched to racing elite. So, I mean, I had some, success in it. And ultimately what happened is I hurt my shoulder, and I could no longer climb the ropes or do the monkey bars or any of that. Anything overhead I couldn't do. And so I stopped racing and everything. And my wife was like, why don't you just go, do something, go. I was so depressed. And I mean,
So when did you start doing this OCR?
It was not very long. So this is like 6 months before I did my first 50K.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
like maybe 5 months before.
so we're still talking 2015.
Yeah, like just in the beginning. Yeah,
Okay.
maybe like the later end of 2014, but not really. And so I went on that 8-mile run, and but didn't stop, and I kept going, and that was, I mean, it just clicked. I just was just like, oh, this is what I wanted to do. I hated those effing obstacles anyways. They were just in the way. And so, I mean, that
there
just,
are obstacles.
Yeah, right.
yeah, I mean, I don't want to go back, but now I did the Hammond challenge, and Steve Hammond, who created the challenge, is actually the main course. He makes all the courses for Spartan races.
Oh, really?
So now I'm like, well, maybe I'll go back to Lake Tahoe and do their Ultra Beast, kind of just throw down, run that double, 31-mile course and just crush them all. But
nice.
It's just, running, it just means so much more to me now. And so I it's funny, I was in this small park, and eventually once I realized I could run past 15 miles, I realized that I didn't need a route. I could just run around in this park, and I could find my way out because there were no trails long enough. So I just stumbled around this park and found every single trail in it. And then I think I got to like 22 miles, and that's when I decided I could do a 50K. Because by this time I was hooked on YouTube. I don't know how many people are, but I found ultra running seriously through Sage Canaday on YouTube.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I watched all his videos. I tried to copy everything. I mean, that's exactly what I used just by myself until I met everyone at Healdsburg Running Company.
That's great. So like really
Yeah.
like a self-made ultra runner, like just going
Well,
out there.
it was not pretty.
Yeah.
That first 50K was not pretty. I showed up like I was going to run an OCR race, no shirt on, you know, no planning on wearing a shirt. But I did wear a pack, just chafed horribly, and crushed the first 13 miles of the 50K. I think I came in third for the half marathon, but I had to go out and do 2 more laps, and that's where it just totally fell apart.
I really enjoy when people come to me and tell me that they won the half marathon of a 50K. Yes.
I never want to say that again, unless I win the whole thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So it just kind of took off from there. It's I found a great group of ultra runners through Healdsburg Running Company. Then we made our own running company, our running group, Red Antler Running, and which was just a bunch of us who just wanted to go get lost for 8 hours a day on the weekends. You know, that was all we wanted to do, and then we more so now we're more of just a volunteer group. That's what we do. We all come together and we just volunteer for. We have yearly aid stations that we do. We do the Rucky Chuck turnaround at canyons.
Oh, okay.
We took Warren Lake or forget what it's called. There's UTLT. There's a lake. What is it? Sean knows what it is. We took that one over. We do one at Outlook, and then right before North Face, we were just about to take over Cardiac at the North Face 50. Right before they decided not to hold them anymore, so that was kind of a bummer.
Oh, right, yeah, that one got canceled like right beforehand, right?
Yeah.
Wow. So I mean, like you've also been like giving back too. I mean, you're in the races, you're doing all that, but you're also like, you know, creating these groups and volunteering, and that's really the spirit of ultra running, I think.
Yeah, really. That really, I think to me is I mean, even beyond what I've ran, I think the volunteering and being part of the groups and just all the people we met. I mean, I wish I would have volunteered more before I crewed and paced my first runner at 100 mile, because I mean, we let him quit when there was no reason for him to quit, man. He had like freaking 15 hours to go 20 miles. Why do you quit, man? Just go to bed for 6 hours, you know? He had so much time, you know, but I didn't know. I thought he was going to get hurt. And I'd never seen it before, and I'd never been through it before. And I always look back to him. I promise him that I'm going to help him finish that 100 mile.
So, rule of thumb for those watching, if you're crewing somebody for the first time, if your runner's now bleeding, still send them out.
Keep going.
Yes.
Until there's a bone coming out, you're going.
So I got lucky. I got to pay him back. So my first 100 mile race, I know it sounds silly, I just wanted to break 24 hours. I ran Rio del Lago, and I paced him for the first 75 miles through that so that he could win his age group. And I did that. And at like 75 miles, I just basically stopped running. I asked my wife to run with me for a little while. I had another friend. I mean, we just goofed off because I knew I had plenty of time. And he actually did. So I did actually pay him back. I paced him for 75 miles, and he did win his age group.
Nice.
So,
and you got just over 22 hours, 22:16 it looks like for your finish. So that's really great. First 100 miles.
Yeah, that was a strong 75 miles.
Yeah. And I mean, that was only like a year after you really kind of got into things too, right? So like you ramped up to the 100 mile distance like in a year.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. Yeah, that was all I wanted to do, was run 100 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you followed it the following spring, and this is what Paulo referred to in the beginning, and I believe you had mentioned in your questionnaire, essentially it's the Northern California NorCal Grand Prix. Is that like an official designation for these 100K qualifiers?
It was going to be and I was working with the guys from Quicksilver wanted to actually make it something, and it kind of never really did. There was some other races that got thrown in and made it like 4 races, but it was a loop course, flat, which did not coincide with Miwok, Canyons, and Quicksilver, which all have pretty serious amount of elevation gain.
Oh yeah.
You know, so the idea was to make it something that was mountainous, you know, hard, and 3 in a row. And yeah, my claim to fame now is not only setting that at a little over 36 hours, was that Walter Handloser tried to break it the next year, and all he had to do was run like 11:59 at Quicksilver, and he ran 12 something. So I got to hang on to
You're
it.
hanging on, yeah.
Yeah, he's someone that I have always, I mean, he's one of my favorite people to run with. Every race we run together, we just go back and forth the whole race, every race. And so I really got to know him because a lot of times we walk together. So, I mean, we have a great time. And just watching him do those 100, that was just amazing.
That's cool.
Watch him do those hundreds.
Oh yeah. So I mean, that's a pretty impressive like ramp for sure. I mean, I don't know that there's tons of people in the area that have done those 3 in a row. That's a super impressive result from my standpoint. And then a month later, you go to San Diego 100, second 100 miler, if I'm not mistaken, and get a sub 24 there as well. So I mean, that's a string that's just really something else in my mind. And so how did your body react like throughout that month to 6 week period, recovery wise, like mentally, physically, all of that stuff? Like how were you feeling?
I got to give mad props. At that time, I actually hired a coach to help me to get through that. And that was Bob Shebest. And his plan was, I mean, I hated it. I didn't want to do any of it. It drove me crazy. I want to go run 20 miles on Saturday and 40 miles on Sunday every weekend. That's what I want to do. I don't care if I'm walking half of it. I want to get up in the mountains. I want to get far away and just go crazy. And he had me, I mean, I felt like I was training for a triathlon. I mean, I was doing so many workouts and tempo runs and hill repeats. And finally I got him where I didn't have to do hill repeats where I went up and down the same mountain. I would just find a long mountain and I would go push for like 3 minutes, turn around, walk down, recover, then do the rest of the climb, turn around, come back, so that I could, and then run to the next climb and then do them again. So I didn't have to, because I'm not a big fan of just going up and down, up and down.
Yeah. You want to get somewhere.
But yeah, no, I use a lot of the tools that he taught me still about non-impact training. I did a lot of hiking with weight vests on instead of running. And then a ton of elliptical. I don't know if you can see this thing back here.
Oh, okay.
That thing will kill you. That's the Bowflex, like stair master climber beast. That it's meant to do like a 15-minute workout.
Yeah.
And then next to it, I don't know if you can see, there's a Hypoxico altitude trainer.
Oh, nice.
So I put the mask on, I get on that thing for like 2 hours at a time, and just, you can just seriously hammer away.
Wow.
With no impact.
Yeah.
So that's how I would translate in between. I've heard a lot, like I heard when Kelly was talking about you train for that first race and then you just kind of hang on through.
Yep.
Well, I was working out in between, but even in those 100Ks, I had workouts in between each week, but they were just zero impact.
Gotcha.
So they were always on like an elliptical, or it was a hike with a weight vest on.
I just noticed within the last week, Bob is now in the Auburn area. I think he just moved up.
Yeah, he's joined you guys.
So I'm looking forward to seeing him on the trails. I was even thinking like once he's through the moving process, maybe we can get him to come on this show.
Yeah, absolutely. He'd love it.
Yeah.
I was excited to learn that he was moving up here, but then I realized that all my Strava segments are going to go away.
You got to watch out. He's a hunter.
Oh, yeah.
Then I realized I'm not a paying member anymore. So it's like, yeah.
Right.
So either way, they're gone. Or not. Yes. No, we're excited. We're excited to have it in our running community and to you know once he's done unpacking boxes, join us for weekly runs and that kind of sort of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know he was excited. Sad for leaving, because I used to run. Obviously, I lived where he lived, so I ran Lake Sonoma, Sugarloaf. We had a secret loop in Sugarloaf and Hood Mountain where we could get serious vert in really short distance, and so I would he'd be like one of the only people I'd see out there going, especially when it was like 90 degrees and stuff. So I mean, we really hit it off good, and I know he's excited for being here. He really is.
Oh, good.
He's gonna love it.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
Quick question for you about just, we talked about recovery between these races and all that, and then just in general, like through that period of time, and then all the way up to like your most latest thing that we're going to get to shortly. I'm just interested about what is your opinion on your like what I perceive as mental toughness to just go out there and pretty much drive yourself into the ground. Like, is that something you discovered after you started running, or what did you think like previously in your life you just had cultivated some other form of mental toughness, not necessarily running related, but it was just there, and then once you got into running, like you applied it there as well, or did you learn it later?
So I've been thinking about this. I kind of felt that this question was going to come, and then I kind of like been trying to like think about it, because I don't really ever really feel like I'm like super suffering, because I come from a recovery background. It's been 13 years since I've had a drink.
Okay.
And I really think that all the work I did to get to where I am now has prepared me, because I remember I used to drink because I couldn't like be alone for like 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be so bored and needed something to do, and I would just start drinking. Now I've proven I can go 39 hours and 57 minutes around the Alps in my own head and have a great time.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think that has a lot to do with it. And it really does. It is, people say like, I'm not necessarily facing my demons when I'm running. I'm running because I already did.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives me like the freedom to keep going. And then I'm not trying to figure out, I mean, it's always amazing me. I always come back from my long runs more in love with my wife, no matter what happened before I left. It's like that running, it just like makes me rethink about what I got and what I have and how amazing. And then she, anyways, is like the most amazing. She's actually the one who captains all those aid stations, not me.
Okay.
I goof around. She probably wishes I wasn't even there. She's the one who runs those. And she's the most amazing crew. And she screwed me on every single race I've ran, except for San Diego. I ran that solo.
Mm-hmm.
But, and she said never again. I can't run solo ever again. She said it drove her crazy.
Really? Yeah.
Sitting at home and not knowing where I was. So, but she's amazing. And actually Red Antler is named after her father. His nickname was Red and his middle name was Antler. So
oh, cool.
That's why it has 2 D's in the red.
Gotcha.
Because that's his nickname. So, but yeah, so it's not really, it's pushing through. So there's a saying in recovery that, you never have to suffer again, but you are going to experience pain, but it's going to be temporary. And so I always have that idea that, okay, I'm maybe experiencing pain now, but it's temporary, and I never have to suffer again. If I'm suffering, I'm doing something wrong.
Right.
So, but I am going to experience pain, and I do go to the pain cave a lot.
Yeah.
And, but I mean, coming out the other side, I mean, there's that feeling of accomplishment that's just insane.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why we all run, no matter what. It doesn't matter. You don't have to win. You just got to do it, and you get to feel it. So that's the cool thing.
And it just drives you
Yeah.
over to the next ultra sign up, register button.
Yeah.
I think that at least our uh, generation of runners, like none of us, or the majority of us, or at least I will say that very close to none of us, were born into a running family or into running ultra family, right? Because the sport is not that old. It's where my grandparents would have been running, right? So like my kids, it's have crew me at races, and they're gonna grow up knowing what ultra running is. So it's you're totally right. It's that what we experience in these races, and when we go through that pain cave, and really like what you said, that it's we won't you know go through suffering, but we'll experience pain. Yeah, pain is real, and at least for me, when I'm in a ultra race as opposed to a road race, when I'm in a road race, or just running in general, I put things into hours as opposed to miles, or time. Like I'm like, oh, I'll be done in 8 hours. In 8 hours I'm done. In 8 hours, all this 8 months of training, or this 4 years waiting to get into this race. In 8 hours, all of this is done, right? And that, to me at least, I can put it into context where it's like it's a short period of time for what I put on the trails training, or just waiting to get into the race. So I can totally relate to that. It's a huge accomplishment once you finish. Yeah. So I want to move forward and talk to you a little bit about UTMB. Um, it's you ran UTMB in 2018. Um, UTMB, for those out there watching this for the first time, it stands for Ultra Trail du Mont Blanc. It starts in Chamonix, France, and it circumnavigates Mont Blanc. It's about 105 miles. Roughly, I will say, depends who you ask, about 35,000 feet of climbing. It's a big animal. Okay, okay, okay. The French are not as kind as they say they are. Okay, because whoever says the French are kind, they haven't run UTMB. So, what was your experience out there? How do you uh, get into the race? How did you get through the race? And what are your thoughts after the race?
So I I actually found the lottery to be pretty easy.
I agree.
But getting the points was not. Now you have to run, especially if you want to get the points in 1 year. That's it used to be, because you needed 15 points in 3 races. That was pretty legit, and you have to think that there weren't very many races. Thank goodness, like Canyons was a serious race. I think it had 5 points, or back then it did, and
So
the
really quick, for
hundreds.
those of you that are going to be watching this later on, what Christopher is talking about, the points, UTMB require you to accumulate a number of points throughout throughout a 2-year period, and races have to be have to basically have a point base in order to qualify, to be a qualifying race. It's through the ITRA organization. So what Christopher is talking about, that yeah, points basis changes throughout the time with UTMB. Like when I ran UTMB in 2014, I believe it was only 9 points. Then it became 11. Then now it's 15. Right? It's so go ahead.
Yeah. So I had to, and they rank their races on length and elevation, and then the amount of aid stations. So the less amount of aid stations, the better. But so definitely what helped me was the 300 Ks. and San Diego. Yeah, that pretty much got me in. And they also have some interesting things in their lottery where they have a certain amount of people need to come from different countries. So back then, USA we had a lot less people that were qualified. So you had a pretty good chance. You had about, it told me I had a 3 in 5 chance right before. So a little over 50% chance of getting in, which to me was insane compared to me trying to get into Western States. So I was like, hey, I'm in. I thought for sure I was in. And I did get the draw. And so the training is what is, I mean, I had no idea what it was going to be like over there. I mean, that I have to say today, I mean, I ran up here now, up in the, Tahoe, Truckee and Reno areas up in the mountains. I found a few trails that are similar, but most of them are not. I mean, I have a whole new training program for when I go back, because I was supposed to run it again this year, but it got postponed. So I'll be either going next year or the year after.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were in this year.
Yeah, I was. I was ready too. I mean, I was like more than ready. This was going to be the year. And so I trained as good as I could. And on one of those hot days up in Hood Mountain, seeing Bob, I drank like 4 bottles out of the Santa Rosa Creek, and I got Giardia like 2.5 months before the race started, or like 2 months before the race started. And I didn't know I had it for like 3 weeks. So I was even closer to the race. I went out for a 90-mile training run, and I got 20 miles in, and I called Michelle, and I was like, I can't even move. I'm eating, I'm drinking. I drank like 3 bottles of Roctane. I ate all these goos, and I just can't even move. And that's what it ended up being.
90-mile training run?
Yeah.
I just wanna
You're gonna go run UTMB. You gotta know you got 90-mile legs.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'll give you that.
I found a 50K route that had 11,000 feet of climbing. So in like 93 miles, I was gonna get over 30,000 feet of climbing. That was the goal.
Nice.
But it didn't happen, and so my training ended up being with that hypoxico mask on a stationary bike, and I tried to win like the mental game. So I found a guy who posted a video on YouTube of him running UTMB and winning, I think, 2nd place in my age group. And I just live and breathe. I still have his splits hanging on my wall in my bedroom. I see him every day when I walk out of my room. I see his splits. Just now, it has my splits next to it, and I can see where I fell off. But I just watched that video over and over and over again with that mask on the stationary bike. I mean, like hours in the day, just doing that in between my runs. I mean, to the point that when I was running the race, I got to a place up in towards the end of the race where I was just like dumbfounded by deja vu that I thought I had been there. And I just couldn't like stop. I almost turned around and went the other way, and another runner like shooed me forward. But I went back and I watched this video. It was I've seen that place in that video like 100 times, and that's why I felt like that.
Oh, nice.
It was crazy.
So, Christopher, I ran the race in 2014. I ran UTMB, and just like you, I attempted to do my homework. I attempted to read all the blogs available, watch all the videos out there. And I have to say, between 2014 and 2020, a lot has changed, right? So I learned a lot, but I did not learn about the last 3 hills. Nobody told me, hey, doesn't matter how good of a runner you are, the last 3 years are really gonna kill you. Right? So I remember coming into mile 92, 94 aid station, whatever that is. It's and I run into a really good friend of mine, Bill Clements, and Bill and I, we not only were local to one another, we were staying in the same condo in Chamonix. We're close friends. Like we are close friends, right? So it was great to run into each other at that point, and we he knew more about the course than I did. So the next section was a 10K. It's like, hey, you're gonna see the next aid station, in 10K, 6.2 miles uphill. And when we left the aid station, he asked me, hey, what's your fastest 10K? And I was like, well, back when I was road running, it was about 34 minutes. Right? It's like he's like, what do you think this is gonna take us? It's like, yeah, we'll say an hour and 20 minutes at the most. I mean, we're 92 miles in, we're tired, uphill, right? It took us 3 hours. 3 hours. 3 hours for a 10K. 3 hours. I mean, 3 hours. It's, right? So, yes, it's, you know, there, we could do a whole episode of this thing about one single climb at UTMB,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
It's, when the race started and we basically I don't know, we're like 50 miles in, and I started talking to a guy with a French accent, and he's like, oh, I run the race 7 times. This is the first hill. Like, this is the first hill. What was all that about? It's like, this is gonna take you about 3 hours to get to the top. It was like, well, you just put things into perspective. This is like K2 on like dynamite. It's like, so yeah, yeah, definitely UTMB is another animal, right?
Yeah.
And I can't even believe that you went into that with Giardia, right? Or
Yeah,
like
it
getting
was.
off Giardia.
Yeah, it wasn't optimal. I actually felt pretty confident though. I mean, confident enough. I came in the Courmayeur in like 13 hours and 1 minute.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, I mean, I was on, I would do that again. That was my pace. That was my goal pace.
Mm-hmm.
But I had no idea what those downhills were going to do. I had no idea. So as Americans, we definitely climb stronger than the Europeans. I'll guarantee that. As far as like middle of the row, maybe not the elites, but I was definitely passing, I mean, tons of people. And then especially skipping aid stations too, I would pass, 100 people at a time. But when it came to the downhill, like I remember the first downhill, there were switchbacks, but they were running straight down. And so I was doing the switchbacks. Then the next downhill, I started following them a little bit. And then the third downhill in the Courmayeur, I just cut the whole course like they did. And that was like the biggest mistake I ever made because my quads were never the same after that. I was so slow coming down a ski slope. Like it was the second to the last time coming down that my wife accused me of sleeping on the trail. She was like, you were sleeping. And I was like, no, I wasn't. I was walking downhill,
Jeez.
down a ski slope. And
I believe I know what downhill you're talking about. And yeah, I kill my quads. Coming into Courmayeur, one of the great things about the races in Europe is that you are allowed to cut the switchbacks.
Yeah.
And this is a real thing in Europe. If you can find a faster way between point A and point B, you're allowed to do that. So you don't have to go all the way around the switchback. If you have the legs to go all the way straight, you can. So yes, some people do. It's a really easy way to kill your quads.
Yeah, I won't do it again.
What's your
promise? Pinky promise?
Yeah, pinky promise. Yeah. So that was a 13-hour 50 mile and a 26 hours for the next 55 miles.
wow. What's your time goal then when you go back?
So perfect day would be somewhere between 28, 30 hours.
Mm-hmm.
32 at the most.
Yeah. So you'd be cutting anywhere from 7 to 13 hours.
28 to 30 will put me in the top 5 of the 50 and over.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully that'll happen
Which
next
they
year.
treat you like the winner. I
Yeah.
mean, you get to go up on stage, you get a big cowbell. I mean, they actually treat you just like you won the race, and you stand up there with all the pros who won and everything. So I'm optimistic, but I think I hired another coach to accomplish this.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. Yeah, so you said you have a coach now too.
Yeah. So his name is Ricardo Tortini.
Mm-hmm.
He's finished second twice at Canyons, and he actually ran UTMB the same year I did. We were both on the Rabbit Elite team, and he said he had a horrible day, and I think he ran 27 something or 26 something.
Jeez.
Yeah, 26 something he ran, and he said he had a horrible day and that he thinks he could break 24. So wow. I'm like, okay.
Sounds like somebody who could give you some knowledge then.
And he knows me really well. I think we're gonna have a great time.
Cool.
So we just started. I'm only in I hired him to help me recover from the Hammond challenge and the FKT attempt.
Yep.
So we're in the recovery stage right now, but he gave me a green light. I can run this weekend. So I'm like super excited.
Well, perfect segue. So the Hammond challenge, yeah, for anybody who's not aware of this, and I'm not super aware of it, just I know kind of the mechanics of it, but like, and you touched on a little bit of who invented it. But if you want to just like reiterate that and kind of like, where did this crazy thing come from? What is it? How did you do it? How did you recover? How did you find the time to do it? And how are you feeling now? That's a lot of questions, I know, but I figure it'll probably.
Yeah, I know. So Steve Hammond is, as I said, he works for Spartan Race. He's their #1 course designer, and he builds the courses and everything. He, the month of April, I found out through a fellow runner, Mike Sinceri, who runs for North Face. I was on a run with him, and he ran a bunch of miles before our run. And then when we got done, he ran some more. And I was like, what the heck is he doing? He's like, oh, he's doing some crazy challenge thing, some Hammond challenge. So I looked it up, and it was, so what it is you run the calendar day in miles. So on May 1st, I ran 1 mile. May 2nd, I ran 2 miles. May 3rd, I ran 3, all the way up to the last week, which gets a little insane. And so when he finished, he put out a challenge. He said, listen, if you think that your body and your mind can handle this, you got to do it. I mean, he was like, if you even think that you could even get remotely close to finishing it, you got to try it out. So I was just like, I had been in a slump. I mean, like, not even getting out to run with my wife, and this has been like for a year. I felt like this, like barely running at all. And I was like, this is it. This is going to be we just moved up here. I just changed jobs from Truckee to Reno. I'm going to like button down, and I'm going to do this. And so the whole time I was thinking about the last week. That was just like, and the only thing I was thinking about, I wasn't even thinking about not being able to complete it. I was thinking about how the heck am I going to keep the time right? Just like you said, like, how do you do it for the time? And what ended up happening were 2 a.m. starts.
Oh, really?
I had to get up at 2 a.m. and start because I had to be at work by 9.
You were still working the whole day.
Yeah, 8 hours a day.
Oh.
Yeah. Granted, I'm not like banging nails. I'm the superintendent, but
okay.
I mean, I still had to be at the job site and doing everything.
I mean, you're not just sitting at a desk all day.
Yeah. So the coolest thing about it was, because I tried to leave from my house. I only drove a couple of times to start. One time was I drove down to Genoa because I just had to run that marathon 26-mile course up to the top of Genoa Peak and then back down. But mainly I tried to run from my house and try and just learn everything that was near me. and roads. And I ran, I don't know if you're familiar, in Reno there's McCarran Road that goes all the way around Reno and Sparks. It's like 23 miles. So if I run from my house to McCarran and back, that ended up being a little over 26. That was like the most miserable run of the whole thing. Was 26 miles on the road. I did it. I decided to do that one after work. So it was like 85 degrees the whole time. I made so many mistakes. I should have carried 2 water bottles a lot earlier than I did. I think I ran the first 18 days with no water and no nutrition. And then I had to start bringing a water bottle. And then I think it was around like the 22nd, 23rd day, I think, I decided that I'd been working on this FKT attempt to run the entire length of the Truckee River and backwards against the flow. So from Pyramid Lake to Lake Tahoe. And so I just set my mind. So that's kind of why my pace kind of fell off towards the end, because I knew that on the 30th and the 31st, I was going to run this 120-mile FKT attempt. So I kind of backed off a little to knowing that I was going to do that. And a couple of things thwarted that FKT attempt. One of them was the Indian reservation closed access to the Pyramid Lake. So I had to start 7 miles away. And then when I was running along the river trail through Reno, the riots were going on. And downtown was full of tear gas and boom blasts and cops. And they had issued a immediate arrest if you were caught in the area. And I was seriously a half a block away from where they were when I finally figured that out, and I had to like run off the trail and back. But yeah, I'm going to throw the challenge out there. If any of you think you can even remotely pull this off, you got to try it. I mean, it is so amazing. The feeling is amazing. And as far as like recovery, I got one of those eye rollers. That's it. I just roll out every night. So I run pretty tight, like my tendons and everything. I'm not like a yoga, stretching, all that stuff. I run pretty tight. I just roll out my muscles is really the fascia. Yeah. With that eye roller, and I roll my feet a lot with like a lacrosse ball.
Oh, okay. Good for the plantar fascia and all that.
Yeah. That seems to work out really, really well. But yeah, I run pretty tight. I mean, right now my IT band is pretty tight. Yeah. I just got to keep it that way.
Yeah, I mean, you're only 11 days post-challenge, so I can imagine things are still settling in a little bit.
Yeah. The swelling's all down now.
Yeah.
So.
So for those out there that don't want to do the math, how many miles do you get in the month of May?
So I did go a little overboard, obviously, when I only had to run 61 miles. I ran 109. And the second the second day, I was only supposed to run 2 miles, but I ran 40 because it was my buddy's 50th birthday, and so I ran with him. But I got 609 miles and then so here's the kicker. I'm a mountain runner, so I can't shy away from the mountains. So I pulled off 77,000 feet of climbing.
Whoa.
And so Steve Hammond did in April, he did his challenge. He got 12,000 feet of climbing. And Mike Sinceri got like 50,000. So I had to get more than that.
Oh, man.
12,000 feet of climbing. Where's this guy running in?
He ran around
Arkansas?
Lake Tahoe.
I know. Where is he? 12,000 feet of climbing. That's pretty low for a whole month.
He ran around his house a lot, like which I refused to do. I wasn't gonna do loops.
Mm-hmm.
That was no way.
Yeah.
I wasn't gonna
77,000 feet. That's extremely respectable.
In a month. Yeah.
That was my goal.
I don't want to go and run with you.
So you were averaging over 150 miles, just over 150 miles a week then, averaging, say.
Yeah, it was fine. Yeah, it piled up pretty fast for those last 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the last week with the FKT attempt, it was like 254 miles the last week.
What? So you're a shoo-in now for the Triple Crown of 200s, I'm thinking, at some point.
Well, see, that's what everyone says. Not unless someone pays my way in.
Yeah. There's that.
I refuse. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. That was one of my things on my questions. I'm not talking about 200.
I know.
I do want to run the Tour de Jante, though. If I'm going to spend that much money, I'm going to Italy.
Sure. Yeah. I think I saw, who was it that just, was it Bob Crowley or somebody that did it in the last year or two? I can't remember.
Attorney John, yeah.
He said it was
our new president of ITRA. He's awesome.
Yeah, he said it was a life-changing experience to do that race.
Yeah.
So my big goal was this year, and the reason why I was ready to do the Hammond Challenge was I was getting ready. I was going to do the Born to Run 4-day event. And my goal was to break 300 miles. Wanted to take the course record, but more so I wanted to qualify for Big's Backyard.
Oh yeah.
So I had that on my radar. And then my other pet project is an FKT attempt at the Grand Canyon where I'm going to break, I'm just going to say it, I'm going to break it. I'm going to break Christophe Tucher's 4 times rim to rim to rim, but I'm going to do 5.
Nice.
And that might happen this year.
All right. Yeah.
That might be the, if there's no, I'm signed up for, I'm on the waiting list for one race. If that doesn't happen, then I'm definitely going to the Grand Canyon.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And the total mileage on that would be what? 5 times?
It'd be about 250.
Okay.
I think it's about 42 miles each one.
Yep.
But it's 11,000 feet for each one. So it'll be 55,000 feet of climbing.
Wow. Early challenge right there. I like it.
That's the one I really want to do.
Yeah.
That's my baby. I'm gonna never forget that one.
Very cool.
How could you? Hey, Mike, do we have any questions out there in the world of Facebook?
Yes, we do have some questions in Facebook here, but first let's go to Jessica. She is here on Zoom, and she has a question.
So, I mean, I was thinking about this question before you told me, or I knew that you ran 609 miles. But where do you find the, how do you balance work and family and then our sport, which even if you're not running 106 miles, it just takes a lot of time.
Yeah, so my wife runs a lot too. So she has a coach and she runs. So a lot of my miles are with her. So, I mean, that's a lot of bonding time that we run together. And obviously I run more. So usually in a non-Hammond Challenge month, I'll run myself in the morning or at lunch. I have a really flexible job. And then I come home and I run her miles too. So usually it's like that. And usually double days. I got to run twice a day. Yeah. That's usually how I do it. I sneak one in at lunchtime, maybe take an extra run an hour and a half at lunch and then work a little later and then come home. And then I usually run with her. My kids are older now, so they're, in any minute I can get with them is lucky. Yeah. But that's what our family does. We run. So it's if we're not out volunteering, then we're running or doing something related. Michelle's the treasurer for the Donor Party Mountain Runners, and so she's giving back in that way too. And hopefully these races start again. We got a bunch of volunteering, but I mean, it's kind of like it's our life. So yeah, I almost like my job is how I make money so I can run. It's not, I wouldn't tell you, I would tell you I'm a mountain ultra trail runner before I would tell you that I'm a superintendent who builds houses.
Right. So yeah. It's more of that's just your life. You don't have to cut out time. It's just part of your day. That's just what you do.
Right. Yeah. And then, so we try and, you know, I mean, mainly it's time with my wife is what I want to spend, you know, time with. And so when we get to run together, that's the best. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I love running her pace too. Feels good.
Just a
I run a
reminder,
lot of miles at that pace.
hey, Chris, a reminder, how old are your kids?
So my oldest daughter's 32. She'll be 33. I got a 26-year-old. And then at home, I have my daughter's going to be a senior. So she's going to be 17. And then my son's a junior high.
Nice.
He's 14.
Good. So I have a couple of questions. Jesse Ellis, which we all know well, he's been following on Zoom. He's native Arizonan, I guess, or he is now. He mentioned on Facebook he has a picture of you sleeping at TRT somewhere.
Oh, I gotta find that.
What's that about? I slept at TRT myself, so I know the story.
So in my not so training too much period, I still had big high hopes, and I was trying to break Chaz Shea's 50 and over record of, I think it's 20 hours and something. And I went out like I was gonna break it for the first half of the race. And even worse, I ran in new shoes, and by the time I got to mile 80, I was pretty much done. I was at Diamond Peak. My feet were killing me, which I've never had problems before with my feet, and I'm still in search of a new shoe. And I just wanted to quit. And I think Michelle remembered that time when we were there and we didn't make Dave run on and take a nap. She was like, you know what? You need to put your pride aside. You didn't break the record. Just sleep and finish. And for some reason, I listened to her. And yeah, I slept for 45 minutes.
Wow, nice.
And then I learned a lot, because I might use this at UTMB, because I ran from Diamond Peak to the finish 11 minutes faster than my buddy who finished in like 4th place. So rest can actually help a lot. And I was always the type of person, like, I'm not stopping, I'm not resting, I'm not nothing. In fact, when I got tired, I would just skip aid stations and, you know, push through. And I'm changing my tune. But yeah, I think everyone took a picture of me sleeping, and people tried to drop things in my mouth from the balcony above. And yeah, it was quite a sight.
Gotta love the community.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think Mike kicked my butt that day.
Oh, yeah, I had a good year, and the last year I had a bad year. Last year was a bad year for me, but the previous year was pretty good for me. All right, Greg, back to you.
All right, we all set with questions and everything?
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Good.
Did you have anything else, Paulo?
I'm looking at here. Well, ultimately, I just want to say that I'm really, really happy that we got a chance to talk and learn more about how you got into running, what have you done through running, and where is your running going. It's as a parent myself with a 2-year-old, fighting jiu-jitsu, my wife right now to go to bed, because I'm pretty sure that's what's happening. I have to say I'm eager to get to a point where, yeah, my wife and I can run together. It sounds like that's a huge part of your relationship with your wife, and that's how my wife and I, we got together. That's, we met through running, and that's the last thing that we do these days together, because one of us has to watch the children. So it's I I take a lot of like I enjoy hearing from other parents that with older kids, like, hey, just hang on, and you'll get there. It's so
No,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
amazing. It is.
As a good message, and I love my children, but I also love my wife. It's and I also love my wife without children. It's,
Exactly.
yes, yes. So yeah, that's no, it is incredible. I gotta say, I see you many times through my running lifetime, but I never knew the Christopher behind the hat or behind the rabbit T-shirt, which really, really, next time I see you, we're definitely gonna talk more about that UTMB climbs because those are a bitch. I mean, like I
Yeah.
said, we can do a full episode on a single climb.
Right.
It's yeah, but I'm really excited that we got the chance to talk to you. Really happy we got the chance to learn more about your background. That we learned about your years of non-drinking. So all of it is, like you said, suffering should stop, pain, but you'll experience
Temporary.
pain again, right?
Yeah.
It's and I agree 100%. Every time I get into that pain cave, I'm like, hey, it's only 8 more hours, right? It's only right. It sounds like a lifetime, but it's just 8 hours, right? It's and if it's if I'm on the road, it's like, hey, I just gotta hold this 6:15 pace for another 35 minutes. 35 minutes, right? It's I've gone to the bathroom for longer than that at times, right? It's so when you put things into perspective, it's a short period of time. So thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for sharing your time with us. I
Well, thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
Yeah, and
Thank you all.
I'll say like when I'll say it when you do the rim to rim challenge, we're definitely going to want to talk to you after that one.
Rim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
5 times.
Be sure you get it right, Greg.
Yeah.
It's rim.
Right. I'll have to calculate that
one
one.
or two. Yes.
Yeah. But that's a huge undertaking, and definitely going to be looking forward to hearing about that.
Yeah, they just opened up the Grand Canyon and all the water's on, so it's
Beautiful.
a true possibility now.
Oops, I think we just lost Paulo somehow, but anyway, I guess that means we're wrapping it. He must have hit something accidentally, but yeah, it'll be great to hear more about that when you do it. Congrats on the Hammond challenge, and further getting your body back to wherever it needs to be. It sounds like you're well on your way.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting. I'm excited.
Yeah, all great stuff. So really appreciate your time, and thanks a lot. And thanks to everybody on Facebook and Zoom. Appreciate all the questions. And we will be back next week with Megan Laws, our local coach,
nice.
and the queen. So get excited for that one. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Hey, see you later.